It's Friday here on Locked On NBA, and today we are wondering about 12 players, 6 each conference. Will they still be on their same team in 6 years? 2 years, lots of stars, lots to get to, and it's Friday, so power rankings are coming on Locked On NBA. Let's do it.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Friday, everybody, and welcome into another edition of Locked On NBA, where you can get the latest and greatest from around the association, where not much has happened recently, but there's still a lot of interesting stuff to get into on this Friday. I'm Tony East, the host of Locked On Pacers. He's Adam Mares, one of the hosts of Locked On Nuggets, and today we're diving in by looking at some players who could be on the move in the next 2 years, examining their situations and saying, will they still be with their same team within 2 years from now? So the start of the 2025-26 season, will they still be with the same franchise? Adam has come up with 6 players in each conference. I don't think we should beat around the bush or explain it before we get to power rankings at the end. Adam, let's get going on the Eastern Conference.
I put you in the position of being the guy that has to have the hot take. You notice that? I just give the prompts. You're the guy that's trying to trade everybody's favorite players.
I think by you making the list of 6 players, you have come up with the hot takes by default.
I'm just asking questions here, man. I'm just asking questions. All right, first guy, the reigning MVP, Joel Embiid. Will he be on the 76ers in 2 years?
I think yes. I don't know why, but like people keep talking about all these teams circling for him, but he's got enough time left on his deal. He's Supermax eligible. He just won the MVP. Yeah, they could be awful, and like that would be the obvious reason that he would request a trade or whatever happens in the NBA these days. His agent will call other teams and tell them to trade for him or whatever works. But I just think he'll take the bag and ride with Philly like he has his whole career.
Taking the bag is a very strong argument here. I don't know about the riding with Philly part, because I do think that he probably sees, especially James Harden gets traded, but what's the return? Are they really a contender next year? They didn't win it this year with Harden, so can you pull off a move that makes him a contender now? And then you're just talking about one more year. But he's a guy that has battled injuries. He's not a guy that probably is going to play to be 40 years old. You never know, but he probably won't be. So that Supermax is probably something he's going to want to get. So 2 years, yes, but maybe it is do you think he's like a Philly lifer?
I only think that because of the thing you just said with the injuries, because his next extension would have to be in 2 years, and then he'll be under contract till he's like 36. And
nobody's ever asked out. Nobody's ever signed a max and then asked out right afterwards.
But his value could decline so fast because of his size and injury history. So he could get it and then immediately not be very good.
What would it take for him so your answer is he will be, but what would it take for him to not be?
The Harden return being awful, or the Sixers this year just being completely garbage. And the thing with Morey is he's good at getting something out of nothing, but also I think you'd be like, okay, I can totally get a lot for Embiid now, and that won't be the case even in a year because he's a player option in that deal. So that also could be a change of heart for Philly themselves. Go, yeah, you know what? It does make sense for us to trade him now.
I think all of those things are true. And then I also just say, Embiid is going to have a unique season next year where the spotlight will be on him and he's sort of like on the clock. And so I do think that there's a chance that kind of implodes for him. Next one, Jaylen Brown.
What's the second apron? That's going to be the reason there. I mean, Tatum gets paid next year for sure, right? So then they're one of the most expensive teams in the NBA. So they'll have to shed some money, and I guess it could be like Malcolm Brogdon or Derek White or something. But yeah, it just seems like at some point, they made the finals, but if Tatum and Brown together doesn't work at some point, when do you go, okay, this isn't working, we have to do something else? My gut says, yeah, he'll still be in Boston, but that one is tougher just because of the new CBA.
Do you think this is a matter of if they win it in the next 2 years? Yes. If not, no. Because if Boston 2 years from now does not have a title with Tatum and Brown, that'll have been a decade together. Don't you think at that point it's like, okay, we got to try something different?
At what point is really good all the time not good enough to your fans, right? Like if they make the conference finals both of the next 2 years, that's still a great season. It's just contextually you're like, ugh, it's so strange thinking of it that way. But I think they'd have to have one rough flame out. Like if they had lost to Philly in the second round this past season, then I'd answer that differently. But I kind of don't think it matters. They've made the conference finals like 4 last 5 years now, right? So I think they're good.
I love the idea that being down 3-0, but going to a game 7 saved it. Like, it wasn't that. It was in some ways.
Yeah.
Yes. Trae Young.
Who?
Trae Young.
Oh man, I thought this one would be on here. This one is really tough. Like the rumors have already been coming. Like new head coach, team kind of stinks. I'll go with no on this one. Maybe if Quinn Snyder comes in and implements the stuff, and they're still just like a 500 team, and they're expensive, like low key and expensive, not that good team. Like I can see them going, you know what, we got to blow it up, we got to change direction. So I'll go no on that one.
Do you think that there will be a market that heats up for Trae? Like if the rumors are starting to swirl, Trae Young, they're trying to shop him. Is there a bidding war here?
I look at what's happening right now, like with Dame. Not that many teams like are dying for point guards. So I don't think, he's younger and stuff. So like there'll be some market, but I don't think it'll be like crazy hot. So yeah, yes and no. It depends on like mid-season. I would say no, because every team will have a point guard, it seems like, but in the offseason, yeah, probably. He's still young enough.
I'm going to say yes on this one, too. Unless they have a surprising
year.
Yes,
still on the Hawks, or yes, traded in 2 years?
Yes, I think traded in the next 2 years.
So we agree on all three so far?
So far. This one's kind of fun because it's a little bit different. Zach LaVine.
Man, this Bulls team reminds me a lot of the Pacers team that I covered that just kept trying the same team with Sabonis, Turner, Brogdon, LeVert, Warren, and Depot was in there at times, and it all looked good and had good names, and at their best they were the 4 seed, and at their worst they were not very good, and eventually they realized that it just wasn't a group that was cohesive and was injured too much. And the Bulls have had the same thing. Lonzo's not playing this year, and they had their good stretch where they looked awesome, but they're expensive and injury prone and not particularly good. Maybe Torrey Craig and Javon Carter are the answers.
No,
I doubt it.
It's not true.
I'm going with he gets traded in the next 2 years, but that's not just that's the Bulls' answer. I think they trade a lot of guys in the next 2 years.
But here's the thing, Tony. They don't make trades.
They don't.
They don't make moves. They just write out their 500.
And AK, he's pretty in on his ideas.
Yeah, but I don't even know if these are AK's ideas. I just think it's an ownership group. We can't dip below 8, like just whatever it costs. So I'm going to say no. I just think Zach LaVine might be stuck in purgatory, aka the Chicago Bulls. Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah, I think there's no way he's with the Cavs. His contract's too short. Like this year they'll feel the pressure if they do poorly, because he'll have the option and he'll be extension eligible, and they can say, "Hey, you want this?" and he'll go no, and then it's like every other time that's happened ever, they immediately have to field offers or at least think about it. And Garland's great and young, and Mobley is great and young. Like you can't lose a really good asset for nothing in that situation. So they'll have to think about it, and he could in 2 years from now walk for nothing if I have my contracts correct.
I thought it was even next year, like with
let me look it up while we're talking. I forget when his option is.
That's the thing about Cleveland for me, is that they are in the uncomfortable spot where I think they're going to be really good, but also have to make a decision that might mean, hey, we're not going to be as good, but it's going to be safer.
Better for us. Yeah.
Yeah. Or, hey, we're going to ride this out, but if we don't win it all, or if we underachieve, we might be SOL.
He has 2 guaranteed years and then the player option. So he presumably will still be a free agent though in the summer we're talking about for this exercise. And that's the other thing too. Like if they have a lot of their, not a lot, but some of their future picks still, like decent young stuff. Like if they get a good return for Mitchell and they could turn around and flip everything for another guy with Garland, Mobley, like that's still a good team. So they have options, but feels like if Mitchell turns down any extension or is looking elsewhere, there's no way he's back with the Cavs to me, unless they have an awesome year this year.
Cleveland might be on that perfect timeline where they're going to be ready to really truly compete at the exact moment when every bill is due. And it's like a race between those two things, where those two things intersect, because I really like their team. And I do think that they might be just like another year or 2 away. And that could be really tough. Last one in the Eastern Conference. And it's the big one. Giannis Antetokounmpo. Is he on the Bucks in 2 years?
I can't believe you brought this one up. Okay, my predictions for who you would say, I was close. I had no one knows this, but when Adam was making his list, I guessed who his 6 would be. I went 5 for 6 with Julius Randle instead of Zach LaVine. Yeah, Giannis. If this was before the New York Times story that came out last week, I would have said, yeah, he's still in the Bucks. He's gung ho for Milwaukee, and he certainly have signed off on the coaching change, and all his buddies are back. And now I'm like, whew, man, they struggled to keep their own guys, and Chris Middleton looked hurt and wobbled last year, and like they won a title and then paid up, but they have not been the most high-paying franchise historically. Maybe they don't align with his goals at that point, and he I believe is the same situation as Mitchell contractually. Like perhaps he could be a guy that's moved the next 2 years. So I think it's possible that he is on another team, and I will still say yes, just because of who he is as a person. I think he's still with the Bucks.
Oh, you're so optimistic. This is where we differ. I think this one is a no. I think that Giannis is going to be kind of the story in the NBA for the next 2 years, year and a half.
Good. And I cannot wait for that.
And I think it is going to be about his exit from Milwaukee. It just feels like there's some groundwork being laid. You look at the future of the Bucks and you think, I mean, they could win it next year. It's not anytime you have Giannis, you're a contender, and they have great pieces around him when healthy. But if they don't, that roster does get older. It does it is, I think, a little bit fragile in terms of they could lose a couple pieces that are really integral, or just those players, Brook Lopez, becomes less and less effective with each passing year. And all of a sudden, they're getting beat by play. I mean, he's a really good piece for them, and he won't be. I mean, he is at a point in his career where he should be worse every year even if it's just marginal.
I just decided I'm going to revise my answer, and here is why. It has nothing to do with anything you just said or I said. Here's why.
You could have at least pretended to give me credit.
In 2 years, when the summer we're talking about comes, Drew Holiday will be 35. Brook Lopez will be 37. And Chris Middleton will be 34. Will any of those guys even be good anymore?
I mean,
maybe, but like that team could be like oof bad. That's a stretch. Like not everybody's going to age out that poorly, but they definitely could not be on the Giannis timeline. That's for sure. And so I will flip my answer slightly to another team, but his character has suggested maybe I'm being coy.
I think that list I just gave you 6 players. I mean, honestly, I would set the line at 3.5, probably. I mean, maybe 2.5. But it just goes to show, I mean, there's so much movement in the NBA, and it's not unrealistic that 6 of the biggest stars all could be in trade rumors within the next 2 seasons. That's how it works.
We didn't even do Randall or Mikal Bridges or any of the Raptors guys who teeter on that line of maybe as well.
I didn't do Julius Randle because I was trying to keep it to just like stars.
Knicks fans just clicked off. Let's move to the Western Conference where there are no Knicks players. But before we do that, I got to talk to you guys about FanDuel. NFL season very close, starting next weekend. You can get ready for said season with incredible offers from America's #1 sportsbook, and that is FanDuel. Right now, new customers on FanDuel can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's a lot. Plus, all customers who bet $5 will get $100 off of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. It's a great deal. It's a great way to watch the teams that you're betting on. And now is the best time to join FanDuel. The app is easy to use. You can bet on everything from player props to spreads. Your faves, you got them on FanDuel. So go visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season with an offer you will not want to miss on FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL. Back here on Locked On NBA, I'm Tony East with Locked On Pacers. He's Adam Mares with Locked On Nuggets. And we're moving to your conference now, the West, to talk about 6 players. And will they still be with their same team in 2 years? And you're in charge of the list. So, Adam, give me your 6 Western Conference players, one by one. Let's go.
I tried to get a little more creative here, so maybe I'll surprise you. But I'm going to start with Josh Giddey. Josh Giddey.
Didn't even hit my radar when I was trying to do my predictions.
No, wow. But let's game theory this out.
Well, I was going to say they're an interesting team because people talk about the Thunder. They have all these assets and all these awesome young players, and they do. They're all telling the truth. But you just mentioned something with the Cavs that's going to apply to them. Because all their young players are good, that team's going to be hella expensive in a couple of years.
And also just overlap. Like we've seen this with every young team that has a lot of young assets. You think about the Lakers from like 8 years ago. They had a bunch of really good young players, but you think like they're not all going to be the cornerstone player. You have to, at some point, you have to pick. And Giddey is really good. You've got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. That guy's not getting traded. And then you've got Lou Dort. You've got Jalen Williams. And then obviously, you got Giddey. I don't think all 4 of those guys are in the plans. And then on top of that, you've got Chet and you've got whatever else players they bring in. So to me, I look at it and I go, one of those guys will be the odd man out. And Giddey to me is a guy that Shea and Giddey are really, really good. Are they good together? And does that mean that's what your team is? Is that your number one and your number two? I just don't know. So that's why I said in 2 years, they might have to make the decision of, hey, he's the Harden in the situation. We can't have all three.
J-Dub, Chet, Shea, and Giddey is already probably like your whole cap in a couple of years. And that doesn't even include their trillion picks and whatever else they have on their team. So that alone makes me think they'll have to decide on one of them. Like Lou Dort, there's no way that he can be included to me just for that reason. Like he's good.
Well, but he's Shea Gilgeous-Alexander's buddy, like best friend. So there is, and that plays into it a little bit, right?
It does hurt Giddey's chances. Yeah, I did not register this, but that's a great one. I'm gonna say no. Now that I think about it, I think he's not on the Thunder. That is fascinating.
And imagine in a year and a half's time what you could get for Josh Giddey. I mean, the guy's already a triple-double machine and a great player, and you might be able to.
20. He's 20
years old. So I thought that one was interesting. All right, we'll do the obvious one.
That was
next.
interesting.
The obvious one next. Anthony Davis.
I can't believe it. Okay, good. I got one of my predictions right. Man. Well, funnily enough, I'll say he's still with the Lakers. He just extended. Bron could be gone. In fact, I'd probably say he will be, depending on what happens with Bronny and his NBA path. But please roll your eyes, but they might have another star level player on the team. So
man, no way.
If Reeves and Davis are that good, I mean, you're not a championship contender, but you're still good. So
wait. You just got rid of LeBron because Austin Reeves was ready?
No, I'm not getting rid of LeBron because of Reeves. I'm saying they could keep Davis because Reeves is really effing good, and they're still a good team with both of them.
I thought you were going to say something like maybe Embiid and Anthony Davis creates this new front court, or Giannis and Anthony Davis and stuff. But you were said Austin Reeves and Anthony Davis was the super team. You and
no, not a super team. Not a super team. No. He's good. Hey, like I would assume Austin Reeves make one All-Star team, maybe two in his career. Like it's good enough to keep running with Anthony Davis.
I would not be surprised if Anthony Davis wasn't on the team. I just wouldn't be surprised if LA, in the wake of LeBron's departure, should he depart, like just tries to hit the reset and gain some assets or something and get ready. So I'm going to say yes, he will be on the team, but I actually think this is like a 51-49. 2 years, so hard to know. Another obvious one for you, Zion Williamson.
Yes, I predicted this one would be here. Yeah, this one is really tough for me because what else would the Pelicans do besides just pray he's healthy? Like Ingram's good, but like not quite at the talent level where you're like, okay, Ingram and the rest of the stuff we have, we feel great about that. And like they have a good team. I like the roster the Pelicans have. Weren't they like first or second at New Year's last year in the whole West?
Yes, they were.
Why'd you laugh at that? They were.
I just like it's just all how you depend. It all depends on how you look at it, and it's like weren't they first at like December 12th or something like that? Weren't they the
okay? Yes, that sounds dumb, but like that to me is why they would keep him because they know at their best they can be that good. It's like the Bulls were first in the East at New Year's 2 years ago, and they still have the same freaking team now. So it does matter to the organization, I think.
Here's the thing, Tony, that I think that this is a make or break year for Zion. Not for Zion as a player, for Zion in New Orleans. If they have even the same level of success, just a play-in caliber team, I honestly think they probably look at it and say, hey, man, this is all a process. You have to like crawl, walk, run. If we're still crawling this far into it, is this thing running out of runway for us to kind of get this to where we want it to go? So to me, this is a huge make or break. I could see the Pelicans having a great year and being this year's version of last year's Sacramento Kings, where it's like a team that went from out of the playoffs to the 3 seed. I could see that for New Orleans should Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson play a bunch of games and perform at the level that they're capable of. But they haven't done it yet, and if they don't, I just feel like this is the cut the cord year.
We'll plant the seed now for the Josh Giddey picks for Zion trade coming in.
Oh man, Zion, Chet, and Shea is that's a contender, man.
It's a gross team. It's a gross team.
That's a wild squad. John Morant.
Oh yes, my predictions are going well again after you threw me off with Giddey. I think he's still with Memphis, but I mean, I don't know if like it's all about his behavior, right? Like, his contract's long, and he's a really good player. Like, if he stops being a distraction, I see no reason why the Grizzlies would be like, this isn't working. Like, they've been really patient for years.
So here's the thing, Tony, because this is all about like game theorying out what could happen for each scenario. What if he does have his act, he gets his act together and, he's no longer in trouble, but he's out 25 games. What if Memphis is 18-7?
By the third year in a row of that phenomenon happening, right?
At a certain point, they're like, wow, in the 100 games Ja Morant has missed, they are winning at an 80% clip without him. At some point, the sample size is big enough to go, I don't know, man. I don't know. Again, I'm not saying it, but I just do wonder if this Memphis team gets off to a great start. Does that start the weird rumors about Ja and his value to the team?
Maybe so. I mean, they have another all-star in Jaren. Desmond Bane is probably one of the best non-all-stars in the league, right? So they should still be pretty good, right? Like, I'd imagine. Like, I've actually been pretty surprised when I keep seeing people project the West standings. People knock Memphis from 2 to like 8 or 9. I'm like, okay, yeah, like Ja out's gonna knock them down, but like that's ridiculous. Like, they're still really good. But I just can't imagine. I think they'd have to have an epic with Ja playoff flame out to really look at that record without him and think it means something significant to them.
I'm just saying it's a very unique
You're right, though.
situation.
It has happened 2 years in a row.
And it's a unique situation where you get this 25-game sample size. Are they the story of the NBA through 25 games? And then not afterwards. I don't know.
Bill Simmons going to have to change the Ewing theory to the Morant theory?
Oh, my goodness. The Morant theory. Next one, Karl Anthony Towns.
Okay, another easy prediction. I'm on fire. But that means my last one's also going to be wrong. Yeah, this one's funny because this one cracks me up. Because the second the Timberwolves traded for Gobert, everybody's like, okay, they're going to have to trade Cat to get out of this. The second that trade happened. I actually think he'll still be with Minnesota, though. Here's why. One, he's good, and I think they'll be a better team this year. But two, this was my take the second Minnesota made the Gobert trade. They were kind of betting on Gobert being good, but they were really betting on Anthony Edwards being so good that they didn't need any of those picks. They don't care about that crap. They already have a young star in the building, and on Team USA, he's proving that they're probably right. So if he's that good in the NBA this year, like if he can be good enough to get them into the top 4 or 5 in the West, maybe win a round. No, they don't trade Cat. That's a good team, and they're both young and building together. So the reasons would be that they're stuck and their trade for Gobert was a disaster. But if Ant's so good that he can save their record, they don't need to. They have good players on their team.
Yeah. This one, I'm going to say yes. I think one way or another this ends up with a trade. And Towns just seems like a guy who also might even start to look around a little bit. I just think it is. Although,
can I propose you back a question?
Sure.
What kind of team would want Karl Towns?
I see. I've heard this one a lot. And by the way, shouts to Karl Anthony Towns with the Dominican Republic. He's balling out right now in the World Cup, carrying that team, really performing well. I think Towns is a classic example of his stock is too low. It was appropriately low, I think, for a long time, but now it's to the questions like this of who would even want him. Like, well, he's still a good player.
Hang on. I don't mean that no one would want Towns. I mean, what kind of team situationally is like Karl Towns is the thing we need?
Here's what it is. A really good leader and sort of, I hate using this phrase, but sort of like alpha that can, get him in line because he's so talented. He can be the more talented player as long as he has another guy who is sort of honestly, Anthony Edwards, only the older guy. Towns is older than him, so there's this weird thing. But if you get the version of that, but it's, that he could run alongside, but it's a strong leader, I just think that it could work. So he's talented.
Miami. You have suggested Miami.
Jimmy Butler. I'd love to see what would happen with Jimmy Butler. My last one is out of the box. I don't think you had this one on your bingo card. Bradley Beal.
No, did you have it? I did not. I actually had a different Suns player, though. That's funny. Okay. His deal's pretty long.
I mean, what's the scenario where the answer
I think he'll still be with the Suns. I mean, they can't do anything else. They've given away everything. They have to just keep trying with this team, right?
I mean, Bradley Beal could be traded. I mean, the situation is if you go to Phoenix and everybody expects, okay, well, Phoenix has this window of opportunity. If you go in next year and for whatever reason, it doesn't add up, these three guys somehow don't add up to the best version, and it's clear and you get into a playoff series and you disappoint, then you say, all right, well, let's run it back with different supporting casts, and it's the same result. These three guys just don't add up. That's the scenario where you say, okay, well, we're not trading Booker. He's our guy. Kevin Durant, maybe you look at him and say, well, we know how good he is. Bradley Beal's the piece that you try to move.
Yeah, they got him for seconds and swaps, and he still has the no trade clause. So I don't think he'll have any value.
That's true. No trade clause. There you go.
That's why I put Durant. I thought you might say Durant for the reason you laid out, but a different player.
Man, I didn't think about the no trade clause because that certainly complicates the situation.
Right. Okay, so the switch we had, I had a different Suns player, but I thought you'd include it's very obvious, but I thought you'd include a Clipper instead of Giddey because
too boring. Too boring. That's cut and dry. They lose.
Something's going to happen in that team in the next 12 months. So
yeah, I was trying to be a little creative, even give some of the obvious ones.
It's Friday on Locked On NBA, which means it's time for power rankings. We're power ranking all 6 divisions in a short little close out today's show segment. Let's do it. There's 6 divisions in the NBA. One is awesome. One is crummy. The other 4, there's a lot of debate about the rankings of those. It's Friday. We're power ranking the divisions. Adam, I thought the best one was easy. I assume you do too.
Well, yeah, but I'm going to start. It's a countdown. So we have to start from the worst here.
I assume countdown would be best to worst, but okay, I see what you're saying.
We're going to start with the worst one in all of basketball.
Also
congratulations to the Southeast Division. We have voted you the worst division in basketball. It starts with the powerhouse Miami Heat, who always underperform in the regular season but sneak up on you in the playoffs. And then it goes, in my opinion, to the Orlando Magic, but most people would probably say the Atlanta Hawks. Those two teams are both, it's funny, similar caliber, and we're like, oh, the surging Orlando Magic on the rise. And then we're like, oh, the lowly Atlanta Hawks. Still, those teams are kind of mid, right? They're pretty average to below average. And then you've got the Wizards and the Hornets at the bottom there that are just 2 bad teams. Not every division has 2 bad teams. This one has at least 2.
This is just based on point differential, Adam. But last year, the Chicago Bulls had a better point differential than every team in this division.
No way.
All 5 of them. So,
wow.
Bulls. The Heat, if they get Dame, will be better. The Hawks hope they'll be better. This is still the worst division in the NBA pretty easily.
But we don't leave the South for the second worst. We just go over to the Southwest, all the way to the Memphis Southwest, where we have, Memphis is pretty good. Dallas is pretty good. New Orleans is pretty good. Are any of those title favorites? No. Are they contenders? Probably not. They're what I would call fringe contenders, meaning they could sneak up on us, but we're not picking them to win the title. And that's the top. The bottom is San Antonio and Houston, 2 of the worst teams in the basketball. Yes, the Houston made some veteran moves, a little confounding, but nonetheless, they're not a great team. San Antonio, we know, is not even trying to win. So they have 2 bad teams.
Yeah, 2 teams that'll be below 32 wins to pick a number. Maybe Houston will be a little better than that. I'm sure they hope to be better than that. Your ranking of this division, I think, basically is how good you think New Orleans and Dallas will be. We all know how good Memphis is and what the other 2 teams will be. So if you think New Orleans is the team that were at their best, yeah, you might think they make it. But other than that, that middle tier has a lot of wobbliness this year. Let's say that.
If you had to pick 10 contenders for this season, I'm not sure you would pick a team from the Southwest. If you had to pick 8, I don't know if you would pick
Memphis in the 10 for sure.
In the 10, it's close. If you had to pick only 6 though, or only 8, you would definitely. I don't.
That team, when fully healthy 2 years ago, they were the best team against the Warriors in the 2022 playoffs. I think.
There you go. Let's go over now to the Central Division. This is your division here. You got the Milwaukee Bucks. They're phenomenal. You've got the Cleveland Cavaliers, who I think are pretty good. And then you've got 2 teams that are kind of in the middle there. I love your Pacers. I actually think they're going to be pretty good this year. Chicago is going to be the exact same team. They went 40-42. I'm going to go ahead and run that one back for Chicago. And then you got Detroit, a tanking team. So only one, in my opinion, only one true contender, 1 fringe contender, and then 2 play-in contenders, I would say.
Yeah, the Cavs are the weird one here because in the regular season they were awesome. They kicked a bunch of teams' butt. Their point differential was awesome, but they were terrible in the first round. So how you feel about the division is kind of how you feel about them. And the other one you said, the Pacers Ascent, who they've got all the pieces. It all makes sense, but they were also pretty good in close games last year and have a lot of young guys. So we'll see how much they can actually ascend next year. But there's a chance that division is in the Southwest tier, but there's also a chance they move up to our next divisions tier.
Yeah, the next one is the Northwest division. And I think Central and Northwest are kind of tied. I mean, you could have easily tied these two. You've got the Denver Nuggets, reigning NBA champs. You've got three teams that I think are all good, two of which I think will be in the playoffs this year: Minnesota Timberwolves, Oklahoma City Thunder. The Timberwolves were without Towns for most of, a large portion of the year last year, still got to 42 wins. I expect them to be a 45, 46, maybe even 47 win team. And then Oklahoma City, I just feel like they're a sleeping giant. I think that they might be a very good team this year. A real chance to not just make the playoffs, but maybe even win a round in the playoffs. And then Utah, we know that they're a good, bad team. They're not a good team, but they're a good, bad team. Portland is the one outlier. I mean, who knows what's going on with them, but they're the one bad team in that division.
Dame's still on the Blazers.
Technically.
Look, the Jazz have an all-star. For a crappy team, they're good. This team's funny enough. Like, the Central parallels perfectly with Nuggets, Bucks, and Wolves, Bulls, and Thunder, Pacers, and the bottom. Listen, just a real quick note on the Thunder. I think the Thunder will be really, really, really effing good in a few years. I'm not as high on them as everybody else this year because a lot of the argument is Chet's going to help them so much. Chet's going to be so good. And I love Chet. I had him second on my board that year. He's a rookie. He's a rookie. Rookies are bad. Rookies are not good.
Stop. It's not about Chet, although I do think he's going to be very good as a redshirt rookie, which is a little different than a regular rookie. Good. It's a little different, but I think he's going to be very good. But you're missing the point. They'll have one of the guys. Yeah. There's only so many guys out there. They have one of them, and he's already there. He was there for him last year. I just think your floor with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is about 40 wins.
You said it. They had him last year, and they won 40. Like, how are they going to be way better? Is
First of all, how many did they win?
Better?
How many did they win?
40 on the dot.
They got Josh Giddey, who's, again, as you mentioned, 20 years old. He's a year better. Jalen Williams, he's a year better. They do have Chet, who I think will be better than what they had, which was not much in their front court last year.
In 2 years, our exercise from earlier, I think they'll be one of the best teams in the West. This coming year, I still think they're probably like in the 45-ish range.
I'm buying your Oklahoma City stock. Right. I'm buying it for pennies too. You showed your hand. You're selling it for too cheap. All right, we got a really good
negotiator, that's for sure.
A bunch of two Midwest guys, and we're gonna go coastal market bias here. Second best division, and we're going with the Atlantic. You got the Celtics, they're true contenders. You got Philadelphia, who has the reigning MVP, even if they're not contenders. And then you've got the Knicks, the Nets, and the Raptors. Not a single bad team. None of those teams are bad. The worst of them is a 41-win Raptors team who's a little bit in limbo. They might become bad over the course of the season if they kind of blow it up. But they've just got all good teams.
Yeah, again, their worst team went 500. All five of their teams were playing after the regular season. Raptors obviously didn't make the playoffs, but it's a good division, and I see no reason any of those teams will be significantly worse than last year. They had three teams make the second round. I think that's the most in the league. The Pacific, who we'll get to in a second because everybody knows now, also I think did. But like, they're good. They're competitive. They have a title contender. They have a team that thinks they're a title contender but hasn't made it out of the second round, and some pummeling regular season teams. And all of them had a positive point differential, which says something. Like I should have used the Raptors. The Raptors had a better point differential than anyone in the Southeast last year.
Wow.
Too.
Wow. That's poor Southeast. Just embarrassing. And then you mentioned that the number one division is the Pacific Division. They've got, I would say, they have title contenders in the Phoenix Suns. Yep. And I guess I'll go ahead and throw the Warriors and Lakers and Clippers into that. And you know what? The Kings are there as fringe. All of these teams can be at minimum a fringe title contender. And we can debate how many are true contenders, but they're all good teams. Not a bad team in that entire mix.
Yeah, like part of the struggle of those teams, like winning a race to get a good seed, is they have to play each other 4 times. And it's a really hard division. Yeah, they all four made the playoffs, or all five, made the playoffs last year. 3 of them made the second round. The Kings were 1 game away. We're 1 game away from the entire West semifinals being the Pacific. Oh, no, the Nuggets stuff. But 3 of the 4 teams being from the Pacific, like really, really loaded division. And like you could tell me any of these 5 teams win it, and I'd go, yeah, okay, Makes sense.
That's what I was going to ask you. The Kings won it last year, so if I told you the Kings win it this year, you wouldn't be surprised. If I told you the Suns win it, well, they're the favorites to win it, so you wouldn't be surprised. If I told you the Warriors would win it, well, we've seen that story before, even recently, so you wouldn't be surprised. The Lakers, of course, another team that's capable of winning big. The Clippers might be the team that if you told me they won the division, I'm most surprised, and that's just because I don't know if they have it in the regular season, but we know they're a talented team. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if you told me the Clippers have the #1 record in the Pacific next year. So that's a division where all 5 teams are good and all 5 teams are capable of winning it.
The opposite of the Southeast, certainly. That is it for today's show. Back on Monday, Jackson Gatlin with the hosts of the biggest stories around the league here on Locked On NBA. Some signings happened. If you want to go check out the local team shows to hear more about those to wrap up August, and many more shows can help you get your basketball fix here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you all for listening to us here on Locked On NBA. Have a great one. We'll see you soon.